Does an adaptation need to stick to the source material?
Or do you just need to make a good movie? Today we're discussing Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering Heights, Emerald Fennel's Wuthering Heights.
It's like the 30th or 40th adaptation at this point.
Yeah, there's been a bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think from the start, we can be really honest. We didn't like this movie.
No, neither one of us liked this movie very much at all.
No, we didn't like the movie. I mean, but most of the criticism that I've been reading, and some of it is really good, there's some really great pieces out there, are really criticizing this film because it is not an accurate adaptation of the novel Wuthering Heights. Right. And there's some really important arguments to be made about race, the casting, gender, misogyny,
the age of some performers.
There's a lot of great stuff. We'll put some essays, pieces in the description. A lot of people talking about this in ways way better than we could.
Right. But we don't really care about the accuracy of adaptations. In general,
yeah. And I think that was sort of an interesting place to start for us in this movie, right. Because
given that that's what everybody's freaking out about. I mean, we talked about this before with Annihilation in a previous video where Alex Garland had adapted that. He had read the book years earlier. Now he's going to make a movie. He didn't go back and reread the book. He just remembered how he felt reading the book. And he
thematically.
And he let that be his guide.
Exactly.
And I think that's a perfectly legitimate...
And that basically... It's almost verbatim what Emerald Fennel said about this.
Correct. This was her interpretation that she had from when she was the feeling she had when she was 14, when she first encountered the book. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate... Exactly. It's an adaptation. If you want the accurate source material, read the book. It's still in print.
Exactly. The problem here is that it's just not a good movie.
Right. And when something isn't a good movie and it's an adaptation, I think it's natural to want to look back at the source material and look at all of the potential that was missed and not developed.
Exactly, because, Wuthering Heights is a rich text. There's so much going on. We could talk for hours about it. People have talked for hours about what's happening in this multi-generational novel. And yes, it's totally reasonable to reduce it to one of the generations, etc., and make something that is conceptually interesting. But the huge irony here is that this, ostensibly important film by Emerald Fennel is not as interesting as
This is another adaptation.
As another adaptation straight to streaming that I found called Wuthering High, which moves Wuthering Heights into a high school in California.
This is an asylum film. If any of our viewers know asylum films, they're known for making knockoffs of more popular, well-known IP and trying to basically brand them in a way that would confuse low-information viewers, like your grandparents or your parents, and you accidentally rent it and they make some money.
And here it's Wuthering High.
Right.
With James Caan as Mr. Earnshaw. And the thing that's so fascinating to me about this is that this terrible movie, because the acting's bad, there's a lot of things that are wrong with it, but from a conceptual standpoint, this movie, and it was made a number of years ago, situates it in California. You have Kathy, you have her brother, which is eliminated in the Fennel version, and you have her father. Her father owns a garment factory.
And they're rich high school students.
And they're rich high school students, owns a garment factory, and there is this family that works at the garment factory, these parents who are taken by ICE and deported, and then their son, who is Heathcliff, is left and
adopted into
the family. And there are these interesting dynamics around that even as being a total schlocky crap film, to me, it's more interesting than what Emerald Fennel is doing with this.
That premise has more potential to say something about
it does.
life nowadays.
Yes.
And I don't know what Emerald Fennell's version is trying to say about anything. I really felt like I was watching an extended, like a 2-hour plus version of a late 80s music video.
Yeah, it has that feel.
Like that's the production design and the look and the costumes, but also just the juvenile nature of the relationships, and sex and its attempts to try to be edgy and gross in places, and yeah, it all just comes across as very sophomoric.
It does. And I feel like it's sophomoric in the way that it kind of posits or places itself as this kind of risk-taking, audacious piece of filmmaking. And it really wasn't. It really isn't.
Yeah. It's just so preposterously over the top that it takes you out of feeling anything for any of these characters.
No, exactly.
And there's no depth to their relationships. You're told that they're in love and they're devoted, and never given any real sense of why.
No.
Or feeling like I'm on their journey. I was rooting for Nellie. Was it Nellie, the companion? She was the only one who seemed to get. They're both like assholes and monsters.
And the thing is that Emerald Fennell is supposedly this filmmaker who is doing these kinds of risky things, who is really trying to be edgy. But if you look at the previous films, Promising Young Woman, I know it won an Oscar, but it essentially is a rape revenge film that ends up arguing that the police can solve your problems at the end. And then you have Saltburn, which is basically an adaptation of the talented Mr. Ripley that doesn't have any of the intelligence of the class analysis that the Patricia Highsmith and previous versions have. And this one is the same. Yeah. It's the same. And it really does kind of ask the question, this was posited as being this risk-taking film, but there's no nudity, there's sex, I guess, but it's not
No, it's
really...
not. It's dry humping. It's 40 minutes of essentially clothed dry humping.
Yeah, and as people who are old enough to have seen risk-taking movies in the 90s.
Yes. Well, we grew up in the era, the great explosion of independent cinema that came about in the late 80s through the 90s.
Yes.
Where there was real provocateurs out there who were pushing the line of what was acceptable.
I mean, I wrote down a few of them. The Bad Lieutenant, Natural Born Killers, Trainspotting, Seven, Kids, Pulp Fiction, everything John Waters has ever made.
Right.
These films, some of them I like better than others, but like each one of them had moments, imagery that really took you aback. That you hadn't seen before.
Yep.
Whereas now in 2026, with the internet, you can see anything.
Yes. Yeah.
And, and this is something that I've been considering. I don't really think that in 2026, because of the availability of imagery of just about everything, or frankly, everything, because of AI can produce it for you, that the idea of shocking content or shocking imagery is something that is really, really limited.
Yeah.
That if you're wanting to take risks, showing the audience something that you think is going to shock them,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't really work.
This is why the slasher film were so popular through the 70s, 80s, even into the early 90s, and they don't work anymore. You can't really make a slasher film anymore because there's nothing you haven't seen. There's no murder or death sequence that you haven't seen. Real ones online.
Yes, I know.
So a fictional one is never ever going to match that. So if it's not content that risk-taking comes from, then what is it? Is it...
I would say it's form.
It's form.
I would say that that's where you start to see some really interesting things happening. An example that I would give, and I'd be interested in other examples, but this is the first one that came to mind, was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right.
Here's a film that really experimented with form. I remember when I saw that for the first time that I didn't really understand it.
Right.
I was taken aback with what I was being shown and how I was being shown it.
Right.
It basically functioned almost like scrolling on a phone, scrolling TikTok, these different types of images, these different types of concepts of presenting these relationships in wildly different ways and formats. And that was what was really audacious about that particular film. And I'm sure there are other examples, and I think that it'd be if you have any, please.
Yeah, love to hear.
I'd love to, or if you have any examples of films where content still remains shocking, certain types of ways that you can present different imagery that is going to shock the audience, but it is not this film.
No, not when she's made a conscious choice to evoke like a classic golden age of Hollywood aesthetic from it, which I felt like came across more like a late 90s Tim Burton film with the production design. But that look, that approach of just a simplified romance, there's nothing risky in the form.
No. And Wuthering Heights shows you that you don't have to do much with that kind of source material to at least conceptually make something remotely interesting.
They could have used the probably better writing, acting, directing. Way more than 4 days to shoot their film.
Yes. If the Wuthering Heights people had the resources that Emerald Fennel had, imagine how good that could have been.
All right. So that's our recommendation. Go rent, or no, don't rent it. Find a way to steal it. Wuthering Heights. Do not pay money for any of these movies. But yes, if you can find a way to download it, to stream it for free, Wuthering Heights is an interesting premise.
It is.
That explains it.
That explains it.